Sabrina Fairchild will look very much as she does now when she is very much older, for she is one of the lucky ones in whom youth and age will never be measured by days or years. To the Break Room Classic Film fans, it's tea time for a coffee break.
Can you get Cab Calloway on it?
Can you get it?
That's my panty waist sugar.
I'm shocked the kind of gambling is going on in here.
By the way, how is your father?
But I want to know, does it bother you?
Welcome back to the coffee house. Hope everyone enjoyed their summer under the stars. Hopefully some of my recommendations were of some use. If they were, or if any were new to you that you discovered on your own, let me know in the comment section below or on my Twitter page at Dominique Revue. Before we dive deep into our cinema coffee, going to do a small coffee chat on my latest coffee, very heavy tumbler. I posted pics of the mug earlier this week, excited to share it out loud at the coffee house. Okay, so a few days ago, I finally acquired enough points on my Starbucks card, gold member status, to pick out merch. When the new point system started, I had thought of setting a goal reach for the star number, but never went through with it. Then when the pandemic hit, most all of our locations shut down, so holding on to my stars were very easy. When drive-through locations were an option, I still just wasn't comfortable with that. Then after a few months, I tried it, drive-through with a mask, and have been maintaining that option pretty much when I felt like it throughout this whole safer at home life at present. So saving up points became something to do, if that makes sense. We've all had to kind of find things to help us to have something to look forward to. So this was that for me. So challenge accepted, challenge complete. This month we shift gears a bit as we're going to take a tour through some of my garment portfolios where I will show you some of my sketches, both made and yet to be made. I'll categorize in sections by collection. Each collection has a name, which I came up with to group them in together. We'll do a script tour and breakdown and introduce today a print to screen series this month discussing some of the summer reads I've been reading this summer that also have film adaptations, and talk a little Dorothy Dandridge towards the end of the month as she will be featured as Star of the Month on TCM during the month of September. And no, I do not work for TCM. I'm just a fan who enjoys cinema and who uses her coffee house, my YouTube channel, to cinema coffee chat about so many favorite films, actors, actresses, moments in cinema, most of which so happen to be shown over the course of time on TCM. It's like going to the cinema at home, knowing there's a bigger, wider crowd out there enjoying and watching the same films you are. Today we're going to begin the print to screen chats with a couple of reads I read for the Audrey Hepburn Reading Challenge hosted by Cinema Book Nerd I told you guys about back in June during our Betty Boop chat. For my reads, I chose the play SABRINAFAIR by Samuel Taylor turned Audrey Hepburn film Sabrina 1954, and VENUSRISING by George Bradshaw turned Audrey Hepburn film How to Steal a Million 1966. I love that movie. Okay, so first up, SABRINAFAIR, a comedy in 4 acts, written by Samuel Taylor, who also wrote the stage adaptation based on the novel written by Richard Fontaine of one of my absolute favorite heartwarming film transitions ever, The Happy Time 1952 and 1950. Reading SABRINAFAIR, receiving its National Theater premiere in 1953, I was struck by how different the play was from the screen adapt, which naturally is to be expected with adaptations. We usually lose characters, add characters, or have multiple characters combined into one character when making the transition. Or we may lose a storyline, a part of a storyline, or have it expanded in some form. Here, I suppose, with seeing Sabrina so many times to the point you know everyone's dialogue, pick your film. I know I'm not alone, and I know, like me, you probably have a rotating table of films you can do this way. You identify the storyline with that interpretation itself, no matter what it's translated from, that becomes superior. This was the case for me with Sabrina. However, I did enjoy it as much as I do the film, because in its own way, or rather original way, we're getting a slightly different story, or maybe just the same story told in a different way. I found one of the characters we are introduced to upon first sight, Mrs. Larrabee's, Maud's, Larrabee's best friend since college, Julia, who after only a few lines in description descriptions, I instantly thought of Ilka Chase in the role of. I found myself wishing Julia had made the transition on screen, but in the very same breath knew it would have made Sabrina, particularly the 1954 adapt, a totally different film just by that one character. Another thing I identify Sabrina with is her going away to Paris for a course in cooking. Not so in the original play. She not only does not go to Paris for cooking courses, it's how we're introduced to her. After hearing about Sabrina in conversation only between Maud and Julia, we learn Fairchild is on his way to pick up his daughter from the station, and how she's been in Paris for 5 years for all the wrong reasons, according to Maud and Julia. I will say the casting of Audrey Hepburn, no matter which version is true of how the film adaptation was born, she fits perfectly with the play's description you heard me quote at the beginning of this Cinema Coffee. A stark contrast for me, however, the Larrabees, Mr. and Mrs. we get in the play versus the film, who in the play is described similarly to Sabrina, sort of a chic, youthful, though I use that term lightly because no matter your age, you can be youthful, you know? But here in the play, you envision a more, I can't even put an actor or an actor and actress who I had in my mind when I was reading it. They just came from my own imagination, and it didn't fit the couple that we get with Sabrina in 1954. I don't want to give too much of the play away for those curious to read it, but even David and Linus are slightly contrast to the way they're written in print. The Holden coming closest to the description in print, though I did keep seeing Jude Law's Dickie from The Talented Mr. Ripley as David. Then there's Gretchen, which I did know about prior to reading the play, just through researching over time on my own and watching commentary and docs on Sabrina. So Gretchen in the play is David's ex-wife, who we meet early on in the play through Linus. It's complicated. And I'm just gonna leave the rest of the story here for those who want to pick up the storylines for themselves. All in all, I think it worth the read, and let me know what you think if you do. So next, we're going to give Givenchy the night off as we discuss Venus Rising. Written by George Bradshaw, who had quite a few of his short stories adapted to screen. The Bad and the Beautiful, 1952, Second Fiddle, 1938, and the Audrey Hepburn film, How to Steal a Million, 1966. So I'm not going to talk too much about this one because it is a short story and it would be very easy for me to give everything away. However, I will say the names have been changed to conceal the identity. No. Whereas the film, Audrey and Peter O'Toole are Nicole Bonet and Simon Dermott. In the short story, it's Jean Bonet and John Marshall. But the father, Charles Bonnet, is still Charles Bonnet. And in the short story, we also get Charles's sister, the Countess. There's also an occupational change. Wait, should I say that? Nah. But, okay. But for those who want spoilers, let me know and I will tell you. I don't think it would make a difference though. All right, so here's the deal. Fair warning, I'm going to mention the occupational change, and then if you don't want to hear it, just stop and fast forward like a minute or two. Wait, then there may be some who haven't watched the film either, so okay, never mind. I'll just leave this here on the coffee table, and if you've seen it or read it or don't mind spoilers, let me know and we'll figure something out. It is a very entertaining read, and you can't help seeing How to Steal a Million in your mind and your imagination as you read it. And like Agatha Christie's Witness for the Prosecution short story turned Wilmette up, the core of the story is still in the transition from print to screen, just taking the basic principle, in this case the Venus, and expanding it into a full-blown existence, like a full lifespan. It's easy to see why this was considered suitable for a film adaptation. I found myself smiling throughout each page read. So we leave the books for fabric as we enter this week's Fashion Friday. So now I am officially going to put my coffee down. This week we're talking about the only piece in my collection I didn't make. Let me explain. When I first decided that I wanted to do clothes as a profession, I grew up with my mom. She was a seamstress. She sewed. She did everything. She was a painter, self-taught. Everything she did, everything she touched was creative. She was a self-taught everything, from oil paintings, sewing. She was a crafting connoisseur. I mean, she was really like anything that you need painted or done, she's on it. She can do it. So I kind of picked that up secondhand, not really taking any lessons from her, more so just watching her. So sketching to me just kind of came as I was going along, just as I was growing up. And then you start hearing more people saying like, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you ever thought about doing this? And it's like when you're in school, and you know, I was sketching and stuff in school, and I would make just small things just by hand, because my mom, she would make a lot of clothes that I wore. But I mean, I would make some things on my own. I would always, I told you guys, always recreate my jeans or clothes that I would buy. I would reconstruct them, pull them apart and put them back together again, to make something more individualistic, something more just for me. Finally decided, okay, well, let me try it. Let me take a crack at it. Just through several channels, just through several connections, was linked to people who did couture type sewing, because as I started sketching, it's still the same now, just straight out of the imagination. Then you come to realize, wait a minute, how am I gonna translate this? So the first piece I thought to try to tackle was this piece here, which I called a kusa. It was just the one that I was drawn to, like, let's try to recreate this, let's try to make this. So had it made and was not happy with how it turned out. It just wasn't what I had envisioned. Nothing against the person who did it. She did a beautiful job, but it just wasn't what I wanted. And I'm very picky. I'm the person who my friends say we could never throw a surprise party for you, because you would be like, no, like it should have been this should have been over on this side. And I'm like, am I that bad? I guess I am. So I just wasn't happy with it. And my mom was like, let us try to figure out how to tackle this. That was my birth of just sewing myself. Like, if you want something done right, do it yourself. I didn't want to be like taught. And I remember when my mom let me use her sewing machine, like I have arrived, like, okay, we're gonna do this. I just wanted to pedal around with it a little bit. And I remember her standing there like, and I'm like, no, like, let me, if I need help, I will let you know. Let me see what I can do based off of what I've seen you do and just my basic knowledge. Let me see what I can come up with. Of course, you know, whenever I needed her, she was there. And then it just grew from, I mean, it really grew from there, like us becoming a team. So we were a daughter and mom team. And I have talked to you guys about that extensively before. So that's how it was birthed, just out of one piece, one garment that just didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to turn out. I finally decided to use it when we were doing our old time radio-esque inspired shows I told you guys about. I finally let someone wear it. And you know what? It didn't look bad at all. Like, I was very excited. It really didn't look that bad. So I redeemed myself from thinking like, oh, this is the end. You know how that goes. And it's also a credit to me doing it on my own. So who's to say, like, if I would have ever started doing it on my own if this didn't happen? You know how that goes. It's just one of those things that maybe this is why that happened, so this could happen. So next week we're going to do another book. I have also read this summer, A Farewell to Arms. We'll talk about that next week. Until next time, be safe, be well, stay healthy. Stay home. I know I'm beating that into the ground. Maybe I need to come up, like, stay safe. And I will see you guys next week. Until then, à bientôt.
Can you get Cab Calloway on it?
Des assiettes sont des assiettes.
That's my patty waist sugar.
Des
I'm shocked that gambling is going on in here.
By the way, how is your father?
But I want to know, does it bother you?
The bold and the beautiful.